The Jets put their hopes and dreams on the back of Aaron Rodgers, and after 3 plays from scrimmage, he was done for the season after an Achilles injury. But he is back, healthy, and ready to give the fine people in New York what they missed out on last season. So will he? What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So, and welcome back to the Deep Dive series where we take a look at each and every NFL team and project how they will do in the 2024 season. And today, I got your New York Jets, Jets. That's right, I got the Jets. But before we get to 2024, let's briefly go over the 2023 season. Despite Aaron Rodgers only playing a handful of snaps, the Jets were able to win the season opener with great defense. Jordan Whitehead picked off Josh Allen 3 times, and Xavier Gibson had a walk-off punt return touchdown. Unfortunately, this was probably the high point in the season. The Jets would be blown out by the Dallas Cowboys and then have a couple of close losses to the Patriots and the Chiefs. The Jets would win the next 3 games where Zach Wilson looked pretty promising, but they would then lose the following 5 games where Wilson was benched. Then Tim Boyle got a couple of starts. He was bad. Wilson would end up being the starter again, but the offense was basically cooked when Aaron Rodgers went down. Rodgers kept teasing he might return if the Jets were playoff contenders, but no one was believing it. Wilson would eventually be benched once again for Trevor Siemian, and the New York Jets somehow finished the season with 7 wins, going 7-10. The reason the Jets were able to limp to 7 wins was because they were carried on the back of the defense, which was 11th in run defense and 4th in passing defense. When the Jets did flash offense, then they would usually win, but those times were few and far between. The offense finished last in the league in passing efficiency. However, the quarterback play wasn't the only culprit, as the offensive line was pretty poor. The Jets' best offensive lineman, Elijah Vera Tucker, missed most of the season, but I don't think it would have made much of a difference as this offense was just bad. Real quick, I gotta give a shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. I absolutely love Underdog Fantasy because I love football, and now that the football season is far and away, it doesn't mean my betting season has to be, because they do all kinds of sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, esports even. They got you covered, whether that's weekly best ball or my favorite, higher lower on player props. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code BROSHMO, then they will give you a first time deposit up to $250. That's right. So if you're gonna go and bet with Underdog Fantasy, use promo code BROSHMO, take advantage of this offer, but please bet responsibly and bet within your means. Zach Wilson would be traded to the Broncos, but the Jets also parted ways with offensive tackle Mekhi Becton, who struggled with injuries during his rookie deal, and offensive guard Lincoln Tomlinson, who didn't live up to the hype of his final season with San Fran. The Jets also chose not to bring back safety Jordan Whitehead, and more surprisingly, pass rusher Bryce Huff, which we're going to get a little bit more into when we talk about what they added this offseason. Before we get into what they added via free agency, let's talk about the Hassan Reddick trade, because they end up trading a conditional 2026 third-round pick that could become a second-round pick, but he will be playing only 1 year there unless, of course, they extend him, and he's going to cost roughly about $15 million next season. By comparison, you look at Bryce Huff, and his contract is pretty friendly towards the Eagles, where he ended up eventually signing for a guy who's really doing the same thing, coming in as a, hey, they're passing, go and get after it. I don't know, maybe it's like they're looking ahead with like a Will McDonald and hoping like he'll hit. So, like, yeah, we can move past Hassan Reddick, get off his contract, because we expect good things in year 3 from Will McDonald. But, I mean, at the very least, I think you could have kept Bryce Huff around at a very reasonable price. So, I don't know. That's just kind of my take on it. It's neither here nor there. Let's get into some of their free agents, as they were actively trying to improve the offensive line, and they get a couple of old heads. They signed Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses to, I think they're both 1-year deals. I know Smith's is for sure, but 1-year deals for a couple of guys that have missed a few games the last couple of years, but when on the field, they're exceptionally good starters. And I think that probably played into their first round pick, the availability, not just the availability of Smith or Moses for a full season, but also look into the future. We'll get to the draft picks in a moment, but I like those two additions. You knew your tackle positions were kind of like, if you weren't playing Elijah Vera Tucker there, then it was kind of a crapshoot at tackle. That just was the case almost all last season. So I really do like those additions, even for the short term. But hey, I mean, you're playing with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, so yeah, you kind of got a short-term Super Bowl window. It's not like you got a quarterback of the future behind him, because you just don't. But they also added Mike Williams, giving him a 1-year, $15 million deal. So he's here for 1 year, grabbing more weapons for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers likes to throw to these more old heads, established receivers. So like bringing in Mike Williams, which, I mean, to be fair, they needed to. Like the wide receiver 2 last year was like Alan Lazard. Bleh. So Mike Williams went on the field exceptionally good, except for he's just been very injury prone the last few seasons. So they bring him in, and you trust him through the length of a full season. You're kind of hoping so. You're rolling the dice that he can, that he can, because when on the field, again, he is exceptionally good. You're giving Aaron Rodgers everything. You're giving him the protection. You're giving him the weapons. But all these 1-year deals make me think, okay, they probably have Aaron Rodgers only for maybe 1 more year, that they probably won't be moving forward with him. So you're looking at this 1-year window where next offseason, they're going to have to figure out the quarterback position. They're going to have to figure out how other areas of the offensive line and such. But they also went in, got Javon Kinlaw, who's exceptionally familiar with Robert Saleh, to be fair. Last year was probably his best year. Not much of a run defender, which that's going to kind of suck, because I think the one weak spot on this team is their run defense. But he does add some pass rush to that interior, and you get to pair him up with like Solomon Thomas, someone else who Saleh is exceptionally familiar with. So yeah, I like it. I don't mind it. They did try to get some girth in the middle, though. Talk about that in a sec. It's not that great. But they also ended up bringing in Tyrod Taylor. You get a really good backup quarterback. Probably one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. Is he is he the future of the franchise? No, he's 34. So no, he's not the future of the franchise, but he did prove, honestly, he looked more efficient running the Giants offense last year than Daniel Jones did. Honestly, I'm gonna be real, at any point. So Tyrod Taylor, one of the more high-end backups. So you upgrade the quarterback position. You upgrade the backup portion of the quarterback position. So very, very good pickup there. You got John Simpson also getting added to this interior. He was solid. He's probably no more than like the 4th, or at least he should be no more than the 4th best offensive lineman on your line, and that's what he's going to be here. He is an upgrade over Lincoln Tomlinson. I mean, you got Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, Elijah Vera Tucker. Those are your top 3 offensive linemen, and then John Simpson kind of slots in there as 4, depending on the type of bump Joe Tippmann takes this season in year 2. But yeah, the offensive line looks radically different and a hell of a lot better. And I think it's gonna pay some big dividends, especially when it comes to the run game. Because like this run game sucked last year, and that was no fault of Breece Hall. That dude did everything he could. We saw how dynamic of a playmaker he could be when given holes, when given the space. Like, so much so they try to actively get him involved in the passing game just to get him the ball and get him opportunity. So I do like those additions. Leaky Fotu is the big boy they bring in here. He literally did a hot lot of nothing in Arizona. I'm not expecting much here. Kind of surprised he got as much as he did, if I'm to be honest. Just kind of a guy like, hey, you big, you eat space. I wouldn't call him a good player. I just won't. Not in the NFL. They also brought in, I guess an important thing to talk about is Chuck Clark's going to be back and healthy. He missed all of last season with a knee injury. So it's going to be good to see him there. That's a big reason Jordan Whitehead, they were able to move on from him. And I'm curious how much they really like Tony Adams there at the other safety position. So it's going to be fascinating. But Chuck Clark, it's great to see him back and back healthy. They also added Isaiah Oliver. He's going to be like the backup slot player. Michael Carter is the top slot player. He's one of the best slot players in the NFL, but Isaiah Oliver does have experience on the outside. So you're just adding good depth there. So that's all good to me. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about what this team did in the draft. So with the 11th overall pick, they decided to go with Olu Fashanu. And yeah, I like it. I mean, yeah, I was kind of in the Brock Bowers camp, but this is definitely a long-term move, and I like that. That's how you should treat the draft. You should be looking for the long term. Even though I think Brock Bowers would be a great asset to the squad, I think someone that could function in the slot, can also play in line, also play outside, just give you this movable weapon at tight end. Aaron Rodgers does have history of not liking to throw to rookies. That's just something people have picked up. But Fashanu not only gives you a failsafe if like Smith or Moses goes down, but he will be your left tackle of the future. So it's a good pick nonetheless. They honestly could have gone either way, and I was okay with it. I think I graded it as such when it came to the draft. In round 3, they go ahead and grab Malachi Corley, who I think he will be. I'm going to be fascinated to see how they utilize him, because I think the more versatile you get with him, the better off you're going to be. You're just going to want to put the ball in his hands. I'm kind of curious what the split's going to look like in the slot between him and Xavier Gipson. So that will be something to watch out for. Though, like, Gibson's more that long speed. He's got the burners, while Corley is just an exceptionally dangerous ball carrier when the ball is in his hands. So that ought to be real fun. So I like adding weapons for the future. That's always a big plus for me. And then in round 4, going to day 3, they go with Braylon Allen. Fun little compliment to Breece Hall. You get a guy with really good size, little shiftiness to him for a bigger back, but not surprised he didn't test out. We knew he wasn't going to be the fastest guy there, but I think he was the youngest running back in this draft class. So I think the move made sense. He's radically different than what you have with Israel Abedakenda, who's more of this burner. Then you got the power back here in Allen. So now you're really building behind Breece Hall and getting some complementary backs in doing so. So I thought that was a good pick. It was about the right value. And then in the 5th round, they go with Jordan Travis. I kind of think he's probably... I think his high end is a backup. I know there were a lot of people that really liked him, but I didn't love the dude's accuracy. He was someone that was just, I think, already on the smaller side. So I was never really that high on him. He kind of hovered around like the 5th, 6th round for me. even during the season. With the injury, I didn't really take that into account because, again, I didn't view him as a starting quarterback anyway. So it was like I didn't have a lot of stock in him. So like the injury really meant nothing to me. I was always viewing him as a backup option or a potential backup option. So I think it's a good get, man. He gets to learn from Aaron Rodgers and one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. There, I said it. I think you have to say that. And then you got Tyrod Taylor, currently one of the best backups in the NFL. So that's a great quarterback room to learn for Jordan Travis. Moving on to Isaiah Davis. This pick made less sense to me. It's like you just got Braylon Allen, and like I loved Isaiah Davis, the player, another just power back who's not really going to torch people with the speed. But that's more the same of what you just drafted in round 4 at running back, nonetheless. At least valuable, like a lesser valuable position. So it's like I feel like if you're gonna take multiple shots on a position, it probably shouldn't be running back. And I mean, I appreciate you at least doing this on day 3, but like they're just very similar backs. That just kind of puzzled me. But I suspect this rounds out the running back room. That's what I'm assuming. And then, I loved this pick in the 5th round. Quantez Stiggers out of Toronto. This guy had such a fascinating draft profile. Someone who was initially going to Lane College, had a scholarship there to play football. Tragedy hit prior to the season, where his father ended up passing away. He just went into depression. Ended up just leaving school. Note, he was on a scholarship. And then mom ends up getting him to come back to the game via the fan-controlled football league. He ends up getting a nod from some of the coaches there who happen to be coordinators on Toronto. Like, yeah, you should try out for the CFL. And then he ended up being the rookie of the year in the CFL last season. And since he was 4 years removed from high school, that meant he was eligible for the NFL draft. And when you watched this guy at this Shrine Bowl, you were like, wow, this is someone who moves well. Looks like he's got a decent understanding of the position. Like, taking a shot on him was, I think, this is why the cornerback room is phenomenal for the Jets. They just do a good job drafting it. Like even a guy like Breece Hall, who not the running back, but I guess was it Bryce Hall, former Virginia corner. They brought him in and he had moments here and there, but ultimately there were just much better players ahead of him. Guys like Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed. You had Michael Carter in the slot. So, like, yeah, you at this point now, you just have a really good depth player. And I'm kind of curious. I think he's now with Tampa. I'm kind of curious how he's going to do because I really liked him coming out of the draft. But now you're able to develop these guys and not necessarily kill their confidence early by throwing them to the wolves and truly develop them. And to be honest, I feel like thus far, the Jets have a good track record of developing corners. I just do. But Stiggers was kind of a my guy in this past draft. With the final pick in the NFL draft, Mr. Irrelevant here is Jalen Key, probably more of a special teamer. He's not going to challenge a Tony Adams. At least I don't think so. Like, he's got the ability to, but again, the production had never been there for Jalen Key. So I know you might look at Alabama, but I think he was formerly of UAB the year prior. So someone who was just doing really well at a group of 5 school and eventually, it was UAB. So a guy that was doing really well at a group of 5 school and was like, hey, I'm going to take my talents to Alabama, play in the best conference in college football, and show that I can compete. And he did, honestly, he did. But I mean, I wouldn't get my hopes up just yet if you think this is like an option or a potential upgrade from Tony Adams. If that was the case, this guy would have been drafted in like the 3rd round. But not saying that he can't be. I'm just saying tamper expectations. If anything, this is going to be a really good addition to your special teams. But I really liked what they did with their draft. I truthfully did. So let's go ahead. Let's talk about this coaching staff. Robert Saleh's going into year 4 here with the Jets, and it kind of feels like he's been given a raw deal up until now, as he's basically had Zach Wilson as his quarterback the last 3 years, and last year was supposed to be different. It was supposed to be Aaron Rodgers, but unfortunately, injury came into play there, so he was stuck playing the bust. I'm going to say it, he's a bust. The bust, Zach Wilson. And I mean, he hasn't had a winning season with the Jets yet. His first year, 4 wins. Last 2 years have been 7 wins. And you are working with a literal 1-year window here. Aaron Rodgers is 40, going on 41 years old. Quarterbacks just don't play that long. I know Tom Brady did, but hey, not everyone's got that in them. Aaron Rodgers is coming off the injury, so you're playing with a 1-year window here. That's why you make all these 1-year sign-ins or trades. Like Hassan Reddick, he's going to be done after this season. You got Morgan Moses, Tyron Smith. You got Mike Williams. So there's a lot of investment in just this year and trying to hit that Super Bowl window. So you got to wonder, if this team doesn't produce, how hot will the hot seat be for Robert Saleh? Because like after this season, you are going to be looking to the future. You are going to be looking for another quarterback. That's just going to be the case. But there's no denying what he has done with his defense, as he is a phenomenal defensive mind. That's why his coaching grades are so high for me when it comes to the defense. A+. When it comes to the passing, B+ when it comes to the defense. And what you're going to see here is a wide 9 type of lineup. He likes to get those pass rushers out as far as possible, gives them just straight shots to the quarterback. So you typically line those guys up in like 7 tech, 9 tech, way outside the tight end, and that does like kind of open you up to allowing like bigger running lanes. So you're really asking a lot from your interior players to not just like to kind of like 2-gap here and eat up space, but also for your linebackers to come up and make those plays in the run game. Which, I mean, to be fair, like CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams played very good football last season. It was quite phenomenal. Now, when it comes to the like what they do to get pressure, a lot of this is stunts. He doesn't blitz a lot. Actually, hardly any. Like, I think he was 31st in the league last season with like a 16.5 blitz rate. Was that it? Oh, you just look it up real quick. 16.3. I gave it an extra 0.2 there. But yeah, it was second to last in the league. He really trusts his guys to be able to get pressure quickly. But also the coverage is very, very tight. It truly is. Like, whether they're playing quarters, which that's what a majority of this scheme is going to be, coverage-wise quarters, with the occasional cover 1. There will be cases where it's like, hey, just go and man up and lock down, because he's got the horses to be able to do that. His DC has been with him for quite some time in Jeff Ulbrich. He's been here since 2021, former Falcons DC and linebackers coach. Also played linebacker for the 49ers for about 9 years. But this is Saleh's defense. He is running the show. And when we talk about offensive coordinator, I don't think it's fair to say it's Nathaniel Hackett running the show. I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. He just has a history of that. Some people say it is like, hey, man, OCs just have faith in Rodgers to be able to make those calls on the field and whatnot. But I don't know. Rodgers really, really good friends with Hackett. Really liked Hackett as his one of his coaches back in Green Bay. I know that it's easy to look at his run as a head coach in Denver and laugh at him, but I don't think that's necessarily fair. But I mean, truth of the matter is, I truly don't know what Hackett can do. Felt like last year wasn't a great showing for him, large in part because you lose Aaron Rodgers, you stuck with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian, and your offensive line getting hurt. Your offensive line just playing bad. Like, a lot went wrong. So I don't want to put that on Hackett's shoulders, but I mean, to be fair, he does feel relatively not unproven, but not proven. So that's why my grades there for him are a bit lower. But when it comes to schematically, it's gonna be a wide zone. This is a team that ran zone 50% of the time last year. While they like incorporated like other concepts, such as maybe they're not afraid to do a couple of a few power concepts, whether it's like inside zone, whether it's like wham bam, duo, stuff like that. We've seen Kyle Shanahan over the last couple of years incorporate more power concepts to his wide zone blocking scheme, and now you're getting more of a mixed bag. Matter of fact, there was a guy that in my comment section of the Los Angeles Rams video pointed out that that's what Sean McVay actually kind of did last year. Is he kind of leaned more into some of those power and gap concepts with his scheme. So it's like, yeah, now you see like this wide zone blocking scheme was something that like took the league by storm, and now like 2/3 of the league are running it. But now you're seeing it evolve a little bit and start to become more of a varied run concept, as you're just kind of seeing some of the leaders like Shanahan and McVay starting to do that. We're talking influences. Matt LaFleur, kind of an obvious one. Did I get the right LaFleur? One from Green Bay. I don't want to confuse him and Mike. Okay, yeah, nailed it. Okay, Matt LaFleur. Head coach at Green Bay, if you didn't know. His brother Mike is currently the OC with the Rams. So like, hey, I just talked about the Rams the other day, so didn't want to. Could be easy to get those mixed up. I mean, Mike, Matt, they're both 3-letter M words. Come on, benefit of the doubt. But Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan are the influences here for Nathaniel Hackett. So again, kind of expect that. The concept to maybe get more varied in some of the concepts that they do use when it comes to the run game. I mean, that should say as much. I mean, you bring in guys like Morgan Moses and Josh Simpson coming from the Ravens. I mean, to be fair, the Ravens, they even saw a little bit of variety in their running game last year. So it's like just something the NFL is doing now that they saw Kyle Shanahan do it. Ha! But when it comes to passing concepts, it's literally going to be whatever Aaron Rodgers wants to do. When it was like Zach Wilson in there, it was a lot of RPOs. I feel like Aaron Rodgers, he's probably going to stick to the short to intermediate passing game. I mean, that's honestly the bread and butter if your quarterback can eat in the intermediate parts of the field. But it doesn't mean he's not going to be afraid. It doesn't mean he's going to be afraid to attack deep. When you have someone like Mike Williams, that one of the better contested catch jump ball guys in the NFL, then you want to take some of those shots. But yeah, let's talk about some of the other coaching staff, as they didn't bring back some of the guys that I really liked on this coaching staff, which kind of hurt my heart, as Leon Washington's no longer there as a special teams coordinator's assistant, which kind of wild. You see what Xavier Gipson did last year as a return man, and it's like you gotta credit that some of that to Leon Washington. But no, they didn't renew him. They didn't bring him back. Ricky Manning isn't back as a defensive assistant. That kind of hurts my heart. I love seeing former players come in as coaches. Though when it comes to the offensive, the offensive coaches here, you got Todd Downing. He's back here in year 2 as the passing game coordinator. That's kind of whatevs. You also have Ron Middleton as the tight ends coach. I know he returned. Marquand Manuel here, who honestly is one of the better defensive backs coach in the NFL. He had a 1-year stint as the Atlanta defensive coordinator. He was with Dan Quinn there in Atlanta, there in Seattle. So and he's been here since 2001, man. He's done a wonderful job with this cornerback room. So let's go ahead. Let's move on and let's talk about this roster. Per usual, you'll see my grades for each position group on the roster here, and I'm pretty high about the quarterback position. You got one of the better backups in the league in Tyrod Taylor, and Aaron Rodgers. I still think he's got a little left in the tank and can be capable of being a top 10 to top 12 quarterback in the league here, but we shall see. Again, I think the Jets did a wonderful job of surrounding him with some pass protection and a little bit more talent at wide receiver. So let's talk about those additions. Let's go to the offensive line, as you're going to have a new left side of the offensive line with Tyron Smith, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann probably ends up being the weak link here, though, but that's not fair to say because he was a very good run blocker last season. It's just as a pass protector, he's still coming along. If you didn't know, penalties were an issue with him back in Wisconsin. They were an issue for him last season. He was flagged 8 times. So even if he ends up being the worst part of your offensive line, you're probably going to feel that your offensive line is in great shape. Elijah Vera-Tucker's coming off of the calf injury, I believe it was. With him, someone who's got versatility to play essentially all 4 of the 5 offensive line positions. So if injury were to hit, and they wanted to maybe move him, that they potentially can do that. But Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith, when on the field, they showed they have plenty left in the tank. The question is, can they stay healthy? This is straight up, guys. This is an upgrade when it comes to the offensive line. Let's talk about who were the lead snap getters last season along the offensive line. Keep in mind, Elijah Vera-Tucker missed the season with injury. You had Dwayne Brown, who, again, another guy who was an old head, but injuries. He missed a lot of time last year. You had Mekhi Becton at left tackle, Lincoln Tomlinson, who just never lived up to his contract, Joe Tippmann at center, Xavier Newman at right guard. But to be fair, right guard was kind of a revolving door last season because Elijah Vera-Tucker got hurt. I think Joe Tippmann even made some starts at right guard. And then you had Max Mitchell, who has just kind of struggled and might end up being a guard. He's currently listed on the depth chart as a guard, so he might end up they might end up moving him inside to alleviate some of the length concerns with him and power concerns. But this is truly a big upgrade on the offensive line. And then you go to receiver Mike Williams. If he can stay healthy, that's a big upgrade over an Allen Lazard. Now you're going to have competition. I know I have Xavier Gipson as the guy edging out Malachi Corley, but we just drafted Corley. Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't like to throw to rookies. I don't know. That's just him. But I think it's going to be close. I mean, I think last season it was relatively close about who ended up being wide receiver 3 there. So I think if anything, maybe you get like Xavier Gipson with like 500 snaps, Malachi Corley with like 450, 460. So it's going to be close. I just have Xavier Gipson being the lead snap getter. So I know it says offensive starters, but this is just who I think is going to see the field the most for the offense. Haven't even talked about Garrett Wilson, by the way. Like, tell me, man, I hope Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy this year, because you can make a great case that Garrett Wilson is kind of starting his career as like Terry McLaurin has, where it's like, okay, he's kind of had to do it without a consistent quarterback, a consistently good quarterback. And like Terry McLaurin, he's still been able to be one of the better receivers in the NFL, but a lot of people just sleep on him because of that, because of his quality at quarterback just hasn't been great. Don't sleep on Garrett Wilson, man. This dude is exceptionally good. Very fluid route runner, someone who can create after the catch as well. Look at his stats last year. He ended up getting over 1,000 yards. That's great. And he had 19 forced missed tackles. Freaking phenomenal. Dang, dude. As a receiver, I didn't realize Breece Hall had 31 forced missed tackles. It's kind of wild. Like, this team really wanted to get Breece Hall out in space because the dude can be dangerous. Like, Breece Hall, like, I think he's going to have an amazing year. I think he's going to have an incredible season. Like, he should be. And I know, on this channel, I'm not like a fantasy head. Like, I love playing fantasy football, but people ain't coming to me for fantasy football. There's just better guys out there that do it, like the fantasy footballers. But Breece Hall would be my running back too in redraft leagues. He'd be the guy I'd be targeted in the first round. Like, I know there's a lot of hype with like Bijan. You got like Jahmyr Gibbs, hoping his role improves. Jonathan Taylor, you don't have the contract woes with him, but like, oh man, it's Breece Hall, dude. He's gonna be dangerous, and what he added as a pass catcher last year was just nuts. Almost having 600 yards is kind of insane. And I mean, I don't think that is going to change much. It's not act like that they have a competent receiving back in the backfield there. Like the next best guy when it comes to receiving back is Israel Abedakanda, who, again, more of a home run threat, only saw 7 receptions last year, didn't even see a lot of snaps. So it's like, yeah, no, this is Breece Hall. Ooh, he's going to be a monster. Ooh, he's gonna be very good, if I say so myself. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about, I guess, some of the depth. And let's start with the tight end, because I didn't really talk about the tight end group, because Tyler Conklin is kind of interesting here, because he is going to eat in terms of, he's going to eat some of those slot snaps. When you look at the slot usage, he was used in the slot 57% of the time. So like, yeah, like he's gonna be on the field quite a bit. When it comes to like Jeremy Rucker, he's gonna be more their inline option. If they do go with like 2 tight end sets here and there, but like Conklin, they're gonna have him lined up out there in the slot quite a bit. So like Malachi Corley, Xavier Gipson, let's not act like there's not a lot of competition for that slot role, because there is quite a bit. Kenny Yeboah hasn't really done much with this team as of yet. He's still undersized. What do they got him weighing in? And I remember he was in that like 240 vicinity. He's up to 250, man. Good for him. But yeah, man, he hasn't really done much for this squad. He was a guy that actually played kind of more of a big slot role for Ole Miss when in college. Zach Kuntz is the guy I'm looking out for. I think last year he didn't play, maybe because of injury. Maybe he was on the practice squad. I can't recall, but he was someone I really was willing to bet on the rare size, the rare combination of size and athleticism with him. I was willing to bet. I think he fell because of injury red flags that came out of the combine. And I'm kind of curious if he starts to get maybe more looks or get more involved in this offense. That's something to look out for. Not something I'm saying that's going to happen, but someone I was like, I kind of liked during that draft cycle back in 2023. And then talking about the rest of the wide receiver group here, as Jason Brownlee was kind of a training camp darling last season and just didn't see a lot of time. Just didn't see a lot of snaps. I don't see him really eating into it this season, but him, Allen Lazard, and Corley are probably going to round out the receivers. I don't really see any guys that can contest for those or like a wide receiver 5 or 6 on the squad. A couple of interesting names are guys like Marcus Riley out of Florida A&M and Tyler Harrell out of Miami, formerly of Louisville, formerly of Alabama as well. But they're just kind of speedsters, guys that just fly. They're burners. So if they want to have that, but I feel like you got that in Gibson. So I don't think you really need it much anywhere else. So they're probably they're big long shots to make this roster. Your 6 are gonna be Williams, Wilson, Gibson, Brownlee, Lazard, and Corley. Let me let Gojo out. Let's talk about the depth at the offensive line. You got Olu Fashanu, who will come in when injury hits. He will be that first guy. Like Carter Warren didn't look all that great last season. Some people were pretty high on him in the 2023 draft. He's still someone that they're probably going to develop and probably just sees as high-end depth and nothing really more. It's going to be Fashanu if injury does hit. Fashanu, if you were unfamiliar with him as a prospect, just someone who has the length, has the athleticism, has got a little power to his profile, but doesn't really have that finisher mentality. But he will be the guy stepping in. They add I think Wes was with this squad last year. Schwitzer, wasn't he with this squad last year? Let's take a quick gander. Yeah, he was with the squad last year. Didn't see many snaps. Was that injury? Yeah, he had a concussion and a calf injury last season. But he's depth. That's what he is. That's what he's supposed to be. Brady Latham might be an interesting name to push for a guard spot on this team on the final roster. He was kind of fine coming out of, I think it was Arkansas, where he was playing guard. I think an interesting name I like to bring up is Obina Eze, who they have him listed a part of the international player pathway program, which is I think that's kind of weird. It's kind of wild because he played what, 3 years at Memphis and then a year at TCU. Like, he has a lot of football under his belt. So I don't know why he would be listed there. I think he's been in the league for like 3 years now. So I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, to be fair, I guess I'm just very ignorant when it comes to the criteria for the international player pathway program. I don't really know what you need to really fit into that, but all right, okay, he's here. But it's an interesting name. He's a guy with really good movement skills, like Jake Hansen. He's at this juncture just kind of fighting for a spot on a squad. Hasn't really done anything in the league, so it's like the depth's not great. So if injuries do hit, like you get Fashanu in maybe. And that's a rookie. I don't like to put all that on a rookie tackle year one. We've seen plenty of rookie tackles in year one struggle to only look amazing in years 2, 3, and 4. Like we can talk like Andrew Thomas and such. But maybe he ends up having to step in and looks great. If they do have injuries that hit along the interior, though, there will be questions. There will be questions like can Max Mitchell step in and do something? Can Xavier Newman or maybe Brady Latham? Can those guys actually step in and just not be like total cheeks? And then the running back room is just something interesting because you just look at it and it's all guys that I really like. Breece Hall, I kind of already talked about him. Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis kind of serve the same purpose. These are power backs that don't really have that long speed. And then Israel Abanikanda does. He is that home run threat with those burners. And then behind them, like long shots to make the roster, Tariq Cohen still trying to make a comeback to the NFL after a couple of injuries. It'd be a great story, but I'm just going to call a spade a spade. It's a bit of a long shot here. Xavier Valade, I really liked his final year at Arizona State. I believe he was formerly, I can't remember if it was like Wyoming or Western Michigan. I know it was a college with gold. I know that, but he's kind of like built a little stocky and shows like some honestly decent bursts. But again, kind of a long shot unless like Allen or Davis just kind of like are absolute dog water at camp and end up being practice squad guys. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers, you're hoping he can stay healthy. If so, it gives this team a much higher ceiling. But Tyrod Taylor, you actually got a competent backup there. So even if Rodgers goes down, you feel like Tyrod Taylor could step in for 2-3 games and keep this team's head above water. Jordan Travis really just there to be the emergency quarterback and learn from the two. And Andrew Peasley, I'm going to be straight. Didn't watch him. I did notice him when I was watching Frank Crum tape, Wyoming tape, but I literally couldn't tell you anything about Peasley. I'm not going to lie to y'all, but let's go ahead. Let's talk about this defense. Again, as per usual, my grades for the defense are over here, and we're talking about one of the best defenses in the league, guys. This is an exceptionally talented defense. They got aces. They got superstars such as Sauce Gardner, one of the best corners in all of football. They got Quinnen Williams, one of the best interior players in all of football. We've seen guys like Jermaine Johnson begin to break out last season, 56 pressures, 9 sacks. They now add Hassan Reddick, but hey, don't take away from the depth that is there. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead. Let's talk about the defensive line. Let's talk about the depth that they have, the sheer amount of depth they have along the defensive line, with probably the next guy coming in being, I'm actually on the fence about this because, like, okay, Michael Clemens, for a 4th round pick, he has produced well for this team. But Will McDonald really flashed last year. The dude only played 180 some snaps, 12 pressures, 4 sacks. Like, I don't know. Maybe he takes. Maybe he ends up getting pushed into that Bryce Huff role of just coming in and causing havoc on passing downs. But he was actually really solid as a run defender as well. So again, we're talking about really good 4 guys right there. I'm kind of shocked. I didn't even know Tack McKinley was still in the league. Ain't that something? That's kind of funny. But they also have you got Eric Watts, who was kind of just this long, powerful freak out of Connecticut. Brady McGregor just plays with a huge motor coming out of Michigan. Guys that could potentially make the squad, but your 4 is set. The question is, who will lead the rotation there? Will it be Clemens? Will it be McDonald? And then you got Quinnen Williams, utterly dominant. And then you're probably going to be rotating between guys like Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinley. Those are probably going to be your 1 and 2. I mean, someone's going to have to fill in for Quentin Jefferson last season. Quentin Jefferson had 468 snaps last year. Was very productive, 29 pressures, 8 sacks. That sounds like that's probably going to be the Kinlaw's role. And then you have your big space eater and Leaky Fotu. Again, I don't like to be a hater, but I don't see him bringing much to this roster. But someone I like who could be on the outside looking in, might be a practice squad body, is Leonard Taylor. Someone at the beginning of the year, many people talked about as a potential first rounder who was just kind of used outside of his position. Like, he played a lot in the A gap, a lot at nose tackle for the Hurricanes, despite being one of the more disruptive 3-tech rushers in college football. Like, he was a hella good. I was shocked, utterly shocked that this guy ended up falling out of the draft altogether. That blew my mind. I don't know if there was like something else there. Maybe it was like something that popped up in his medicals, something with the interviews. I don't know what it was. I heard glowing reviews about him from the Shrine. He didn't participate in the practices or anything, but he was there interviewing and constantly like seeking wise counsel and okay, how should I go about this, and just kind of like open up my game. Like, I heard a lot of positive things about him. So like, I don't know, man, I was taken back, and I think he could make this team as like maybe that fifth interior player if they hold on to that many. I think he could definitely usurp other guys here listed ahead of him, like Bruce Hector, and you got Tenzel Smart. I think he could usurp those guys. I think he's that talented. I'm very eager to see how he does in training camp. But let's go ahead. Let's move on to the linebacker position. Being CJ Mosley, being Quincy Williams. I mean, these guys were a huge part to why this run defense was as good as it was. They really are. Because like, you are opening up a lot of gaps when you are stretching your alignment that far. And they did a phenomenal job as run defenders. Like, CJ Mosley has resurrected his career. He has lost the bad weight. And he's like, nah, man, I can be good. I'm not just a thumper. I can be good in coverage. And he was, man. He was. Like, last season, allowed a completion rate of 80%. Sure, that's around, like, okay, minimal gain guy. But he was able to come up with some splash plays. 5 pass breakups. You had an interception in there. Very sure tackler. 8.8% missed tackle rate. And again, Quincy Williams, man, just out there doing his thing. This is probably, dare I say, the best linebacker duo in all of football. Like, they are that good. They are, and they were that good last season, but they weren't just getting run support from their linebackers. They were getting it from the safety room as well. They were like, Jordan Whitehead will be missed. He was actually really good as a run defender. Like, I know things fell apart from him in pass protection. He ended up allowing like 7 tutties last season, but when it came to like run defending, like, he was there and he was solid. I think Chuck Clark, though, is phenomenal. It sucked that he missed last season. He is a very good player when on the field, and he will be back this year. I think they probably won't miss a beat with him filling in there. When it comes to like Tony Adams, he was all right. 15% missed tackle rate, pretty darn solid there. So, I mean, shoot, how many defensive stops did he have? Ended up having 23 defensive stops. Yeah, dude, he was good. He was solid. Like, I talk about him kind of being a stopgap option. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think they like what they see in him, and they're cool with him moving forward. Man, he's really produced. I liked him coming out. I believe it was it Toledo? I think it was, because it was like, was it a year before Womack came out? No, it was Illinois. That's right. He was the other guy from Illinois. I really like Tony Adams coming out of the 2022 NFL draft. I probably had him as like a late day 3 pick, maybe a priority UDFA, but he had a really good offseason draft process. And he was kind of overshadowed by, well, just the sheer talent in that Illinois secondary, because just in that draft, you had Kirby Joseph. The following year, you had guys like Quan Martin and Devon Witherspoon. So he just kind of got overshadowed. But Tony Adams really, really good, really solid. And I think the Jets really like what they have in him. I think they do. I think they're confident in his abilities as a starter. And he was good last year for him. He was good. Let's move on to the corner position, talk about the starters here, and then we'll go into the depth for that back seven. You got Sauce Gardner, one of the best corners in the NFL. He gets a lot of hate, man. I don't know why, but he allowed a completion rate of 56.9%. That's hella good. Only allowed 1 touchdown with 10 pass breakups. I guess people like give him flack because he's just not an interception guy, but it's hard to be when people don't throw it your way. And then you got DJ Reed, who is, I think, one of the most underrated corner twos in the NFL. This is dating back to he was good with the Niners and good with Seattle, and he's been exceptionally good with them, allowing a completion rate of 61.4%. Did allow 2 touchdowns last year, but had an interception, had 6 pass breakups. Again, really, really solid. And then Michael Carter has grown into one of the best corners in the NFL. He allowed a completion rate of 56. Was it 56? 56.1%, which that's really good for being a slot defender. Because, hey, there's going to be a lot of easy receptions that come your way. So typically those numbers get a little inflated, and they weren't with him. And he ends up only allowing 1 touchdown, 4 pass breakups. So, yeah, there's a reason that this is one of the best defenses in football. There's a reason why I got A+ coverage, A+ overall for this squad. They're a hella good. But let's just go ahead. Let's talk about the depth on the defense. Let's go back to the linebacker position with Jamin Sherwood. I remember when he came out, he was a safety out of Auburn who was just really good at exploding downhill and making those plays either underneath or at the second level. And he came in as a convert from safety to linebacker, along with Hamsah Nasir-Eldine, who was safety out of Florida State, which a lot of people thought he would probably make the transition to linebacker as well. And Sherwood's the guy that's still here. I don't think Nasir-Eldine's on the roster currently. So he's the guy that made it, and he played a little under 200 snaps last year, but he was really solid, pretty effective. Had a 6% missed tackle rate. That's hella good, guys. Hella good. Some of the other depth there, I'm kind of hoping Zaire Barnes can move up the depth chart. I liked him coming out of, I want to say it was Western Michigan. It's another one of those gold helmet schools. It was Western Michigan. But I liked him coming out. I think he could probably usurp a guy like Sam, was it Aguvian? I'm terrible with names. I'm not even going to try it. Chaz Surratt, undersized, coming out of North Carolina a few years ago. He'll be lucky to make the roster probably. You got Marceliano McCrary Ball, another one of these former safeties, played safety at Indiana, making the move to linebacker, kind of a long shot to make the roster. Jack Sermon's got some legit special teams experience. I think he has well over 700 to 800 special team snaps over his career. So I think he's actually got a good shot of making the roster just because of what he can do on special teams. But solid enough safety group with some names. When it comes to the, did I say safety group? Linebacker group. When it comes to the cornerback position, the cornerback 4 on this roster had 140 something snaps last year, and that was Brandon Equals. I still think Equals is more of a slot player, but he's been fine when they've called upon him. The next guy up was Bryce Hall with, I think it was just under 140. So I'm just going to assume it's going to be Isaiah Oliver, who honestly, Isaiah Oliver probably gets moved up to the cornerback 4 in this squad. Then with his just experience on both the outside and the inside. You could say the same thing about Equals, but yeah, either here or there. And then you got Quantez Stiggers, who I think is probably going to make this roster. It's kind of wild because they have brought in quite a bit of safeties via like UDFAs, and a lot of them are here listed as, or a lot of corners, and a lot of these guys are listed as safeties. Like Jarius Monroe was a corner coming out of Tulane. He had some size to him. A lot of people were a little sketch about his long field speed. Didn't test out that well in the 40. And now he's currently here listed as potential safety convert. You got Al Blades Jr., former Miami corner, end of the year at Duke, along with actually Miles Jones, who was a former Texas A&M corner, ended his career with Duke. And you got Blades listed here as a safety. I think those two guys probably long shots because they brought back Ashton Davis, and he's been pretty solid as their safety 3. I think Jalen Key probably has a good shot at making the roster, depending on how they feel about Jarek Bernard Converse. I think Converse is also a guy that played a lot. I think he was another guy that was a corner because he played a little bit corner at LSU. It's so hard to think back to these former draft classes, but former Oklahoma State and LSU corner / safety. I think he did play some slot. So like, is he really a true safety? So I don't know. I mean, those are fascinating, but those are position battles really no one's going to be talking about. The question is, will these guys be able to make the roster? Will these guys bring something in terms of special teams experience? Because that's kind of your gateway into making the roster if you are just going to be depth. But Stiggers, I'm very excited about. And I mean, they're probably looking to get cheaper, knowing they have to pay Sauce. And DJ Reed, I think, is maybe in the final year of his deal. Let me just confirm that real quick. I got it right here, as he is indeed in the final year of his deal, because then the next year, 3 years are voided, because void contracts are a thing. I hate that. But yeah, and I mean, he's going to be 20. He's going to be going on 29 after the 2024 season. He's starting to get up there in years. So I'm sure they're probably hoping Stiggers maybe can could be that heir apparent at corner too. That would be ideal. But yeah, this is a great defense. Even if the offense is faulty at times, they know that they can ride the back of this defense to victory. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about how they'll do in 2024, especially if things are ideal and everyone is healthy. So I have the Jets with the 3rd easiest schedule in the NFL, which that works great, right? That works great. The real question is, can this team stay healthy? Aaron Rodgers, will he miss games? Will those tackles miss games? Can Mike Williams stay healthy? Like, the offense is a total like, okay, who's going to end up on the IR and who's not? That's kind of the question with this. So let's first talk about the potential ceiling of this squad. As Niners, opening day, that's going to be a tough one. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to give them wins here against Tennessee, home win against the Patriots, home win against the Broncos, beat the Vikings. Let's say you split with the Bills. I think the Patriots can be savvy, so watch out. But I'll go ahead and say you sweep the Patriots. Let's say the Texans. Let's say the Texans get one bye on you. The Colts could be another team, but you get this one at home. You exit your bye, having to face the Seahawks, but you get that at MetLife. That's great. I'm going to say you and the Dolphins split. I'll give you this against the Jags, the Rams. And there we go. We're talking about a 13-win ceiling. That's where I see the ceiling if everything is ideal, if everything is perfect for this squad. But I just can't get by. Can this team stay healthy? Is Aaron Rodgers going to miss time? But I mean, Tyrod Taylor's there. He can win. He could certainly win some games depending on, well, what part of the schedule is it in. But Ultimately, I ended up lowballing the Jets. I know people are going to say I'm a hater. Because I'm a Dolphins fan. Fins up, baby. It is what it is. But I have them just missing 10 wins. I have them at 9-8. Because like Aaron Rodgers, he is 40, guys. He is 40. He is removed from the Achilles injury. Are we going to see... Because like we saw part of it in his final year at Green Bay, where it was like, okay, this isn't the Rodgers of yesteryear, you know? Are we going to see that? Are we going to just continue to see him start to fade and not be a top 10, top 12 player in the NFL? That's kind of the question. So like going back over this, like I think ultimately I had y'all splitting with the Patriots in my final prediction. So let's give the Patriots their due here. I think I gave this one to the Colts, gave this one to the Texans. I do think the Steelers, they're just tough. They're just tough. Mike Tomlin's fighting for that above 500, so it's going to be tough. Let's see what other losses could we see here. I actually like the Rams quite a bit this year. Shoot, man, do I sneak one to the Jags? Let's do it. So no, let's not sneak that one to the Jags. Let's stick with it like this, and that puts them at 9-8. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Let's look at the losses. Like the Niners, okay, that's a believable loss, right? Steelers, that's not out of the realm of possibility. No one's gonna really like this Patriots loss, but Patriots are sneaky, man. That's a really good defense in its own right, and maybe things go well with, well, I guess Jacoby Brissett or Drake May. The Texans, I think, they're on the up and up. They're gonna be tough to win, tough to beat. Granted, you get this game at home along with the Colts game at home, but also Anthony Richardson. It's right before the bye. Sometimes teams kind of like choke going into their bye. I mean, I think these are believable losses. Like the Rams, they were constantly in close games down the stretch and won. Like, again, I just did the Rams deep dive. They finished the year 7-1 last season. So, yeah, it could be tough. So I don't think 9-8's out of the realm of possibility. I don't even necessarily think that's the floor. Because, I mean, dude, if injuries hit, we could be talking about like a 7-win team all over again, right? But let me know what you think in the comment section below, Jets fans. That's it for the video. If you want to check out my deep dive on the Patriots, the division rival Patriots, then you can check out that video down here. Or I've been doing my summer deep dives. Yeah, you Jets fans know you're going to need a quarterback in the future. Why don't you just go ahead and click that video if you want to see what the 2025 class could look like. But as always, until next time, be easy, my friends. Later.